Okay, this is the last part. This is the most. This one's the only one with drawing. So, operate a tactical petroleum terminal. Give you the requirements to assemble the operating tactical petroleum terminal. The field environmental personal materials required to perform the task are 43 military occupational specialists, must qualified, and 2 soldiers to assist. The tactical petroleum terminal consists of 3 tanker farm assemblies and 2 50,000 barrel fabric tank each. A tanker truck, receipt manifold of fuel dispensing assembly, a transfer hose line assembly, 6 fuel fire suppression assemblies, and an optical tank configuration of fuel unit in support of assembly, the communication equipment, spill containers, tool risk management procedure, material safety data sheets, personal protective equipment, personal protective equipment required, facility response plan, unit standing authorization procedure, on fuel operation pumping orders, DA form 1804 petroleum sample, ADA form 4193 petroleum product pump station hourly operation orders, DA form 3643 daily issued petroleum products, DA form 27651 request for issuance and turn in, DA form 2404 equipment inspection maintenance worksheet, DA form 5988E equipment inspection maintenance worksheet, design plan, and full access to all reference materials. Standards in place, unpack, assembly, operate, perform fuel accountability, performs operator preventive maintenance check services, disassemble the tactical petroleum terminal without injury to the personal damage to the equipment or pollution of the environment. Note in this task, as many of the tasks involved in extensively handling the petroleum products, make sure that the equipment is on hand to contain the cleanup spills, to unpack, the inspect the position of the equipment, the convenience of accessing, beginning the task, reviewing the requirements of the task, performing ensuring the drip pans, wasting fuel containers are appropriate for the size to the containing the waste of fuel generated by each of the tasks. Use the drip pans at any point of the spill is likely to occur, such as valves, nozzles, continually observe equipment to take care of while the performing the task, minimizing the possibility of petroleum spills. If the spills occur, immediately stop the operation. Take the steps to contain and clean up the spill, and report all spills immediately to your supervisor. Apply risk management procedure. Understand, execute risk management procedures, risk control command guidance directed by higher headquarters. Assess variable hazards. Continuous report risk and risk reduction measures that is appropriate for the chain of command. Read and understand unit installation standard operation orders, requirement, requisition, storing, handling, disposing hazardous material where appropriate personal protective equipment is required. Gloves, hearing, and protection goggles needed to be worn while performing fueling operations. Perform before, during, after preventive maintenance checks on systems according to the appropriate technical TMs, and note the DA form 2405, DA form 5988E, and any false while performing the preventive maintenance check services. Enter the communication nets and conduct communication checks in accordance with the standard operation procedure, communication operation procedures. Position major items and major end items such as pumps or twin agent units, floodlights are directed by the supervisor. Unload components with a fuel unit using a forklift. Place a fuel unit tank farm equipment on the side according to each layout plan. Place fuel set according to TM 9, 62, 32, 11, 14 as required as directed by the supervisor. Warning, ground and bond equipment at the time of installation to prevent explosion of the fire. Installation of floodlights earlier in the erection program is necessary to permit it work at night. Do not attempt to set up a floodlight set on loose, unstable soil or on ground as grades more than 5 degrees. In floodlight set topples over damage to equipment, injury, or loss of life. Place floodlight set on the firm level of the ground, grade less of the 5 degrees. Select a site that will provide a firm base and have the grade of less than 5 degrees. Level the floodlight. Ensure that the tongue of the stabilizing jack is supporting the trailer tongue. Disengage the jack locking pin. Rotate the rear stabilization jack to the vertical. Extend the jack to the foot so it's touching the ground. Loosen the T-bolts on the stabilizing jack outriggers. Extend the outriggers fully. Tighten the T-bolt. Disengage the jack locking pins. Rotate each of the front stabilizing jacks to the vertical position. Extend the jack until each of the jack of the foot is touching the ground. Disengage the handbrake. Use the pull-out bullseye lever indicator mounted on the trailer tongue. Adjust to the 4 stabilizing jacks until the floodlight sets is level. Attach the T-bar to the floodlight tower mast. Remove the T-bar from the stowed position at the rear panel of the floodlight set and loosen and removing 2 wing nuts at the flat washer, lifting the T-bar from the stower brackets. Install the T-bar at the top of the lower mast. Assemble assembly to secure the 2 flat washers, 2 lot washers, and 2 wing nuts. Install 4 metal halide light fixtures on the tower of the mast assembly. On both sides of the door, secure the wire with attached hairpin cotter key. Doors should not remain open during the operation for max airflow. Remove the metal halide light fixtures for storage brackets located inside the floodlight set of the trailer. Retain the mounting hardware to attach the light fixtures to the T-bar. Mount the lighting fixtures to the T-bar mounting position. Secure each with a flat washer, lock washer, and twig nut. Plug each light fixture into the tower power lead assembly receptacle. Twist to lock the plug. E. Erect the tower of the mast assembly. Remove the hairpin cotter key and the tower of the lockdown pin. Remove the lockdown pin to the back of the tower to support the retaining hairpin cotter key. Remove the hairpin cotter key to the upper tower lock pin. Remove the lock pin from the tower swivel base support. Retain the hairpin cotter keys. Turn the handle to the side on the tower erection winch clockwise until the tower is fully erect. Reinsert the pin of the tower swivel base support. Install the hairpin cotter key. Plug the 2 power leads for the extended the power lead collection tubes into the tower lamp. Receptacles located on the front and the right side of the floodlight set and twist to the lock. Extend the tower mast. Pull the tower extension lock pin operating handle down to release the lock pin. Turn the handle of the tower extension with the clockwise until the mast extended to the desired height at 30 feet maximum. The ground floodlight set. 1. Loosen the T-bolt. Remove the ground from the rod of the stowed position on the top of the set. Adjust the ground wire to the required of the driving the ground rod into the ground. Assemble the port light mast of the quartz light fixture. Remove each of the portable masts into the stowed position on the top of the floodlight set of the trailer by removing the lock pin with the securing clip. Retain the locking pin with the clip. It will be used to lock the mast into extended position. Lift in the twist mast to remove the trailer top. Loosen the T-bolt. Extend the tripod legs and tighten the T-bolt. Move the T-bar, the attached quartz fixtures from the trailer. Lay the mast and the light fixtures on the ground. Remove the bottom of the locking pin with a securing clip. Extend the mast desired height. Ensure that both of the bottom and top of the locking pins were secure in clips. Placing mast of the light fixture the desired location. Plug power lead into the proper receptacle and up to the front of the floodlight set. Start up the floodlight set. Perform before operation preventive maintenance check services TM9 6232 11 14. Prior to the starting operation, start engine according to TM9 6232 11 14. Operating flood sets according to TM9 6232 11 14. Once engine has stabilized the RPMs, place the main circuit breaker, the CB9, in the on position. Observe the voltage reading of the AC voltage meter located on the power distribution. Power distribution box control panel. If the voltage is between 230 and 247, proceed with the operation. Place a 1,000 watt tower floodlight circuit breaker on the on position. Turn on as many as desired. Place the 500 watt portable light circuit breaker in the on position. If required, shut down the floodlight system. Never stop and start the generator set while the set is still under the load. Make sure that all circuit breakers located in the control panel are off position before any attempts is made to stop or start a generator set. Place all circuit breakers located in the power distribution box in the control panel off. Place a 5,000 barrel fabric collapsible tank. Clear the ground of the bushing samples, debris, rock sticks, and brushes. Place the berm liner. Deploy the tanking. Placing shipping skidding containing the tank in the middle of the prepared pad. If the pad has any slope length, the shipping skidding must be parallel to the slope of the fail line. Slope shall be to suction line side out. Make sure the sewer tank is in the proper position before beginning the deployment. Moving it once it's deployed is very difficult. Avoid stepping on bags as you unfold them. Unroll one of the end of the tank by pushing on the roll. Do not unroll both ends. Wait until the shipping skid has been removed and placed outside of the pad area. Roll remaining section of the offshot shipping skid toward the unrolled section. When the skid is free from under the tank, remove the skid and place the skid outside of the padded area. After the skid is removed, unroll remaining section of the tank. Unfold the tank by placing each roll of the undeployed straps in the opposite directions. This will extend the to-top folded layer. layers. Use the deployment straps, tank or holes to fully unload the tank. Tank should be lying smoothly with the outfolds. Tank should be centralized with the tank pad with one draining assembly at the low end of the pad. Use the tank handles of the top position if necessary to move and circle the entire tank with the people at every hand to pull on the handles to get the air of the handle tank of them to move. Repeat until the tank is in the proper position. Fold the tank back on both ends with a filler nozzle to expose the drains. Install the drain hose on the lower end of the suction hose of the tank and tighten and securely. Install the tightened drainage plug on the high side. Dig a shallow trench beyond the tank of the edge of the drain hose to lie. This will keep the tank helps the tank keep the flat using earth moving equipment to repair the berm after the tank installation is complete. Install the vent assembly into the center of the tank and unfold the ends of the tank so they're lying flat on the smooth end. Flat and smooth on without any folds. Install the component of the transfer hose line dispensing the assembly of the tank farm assembly connection hoses. Connection 6 inches cam lock female and male elbow to the nozzle of discharge pump size. The tank keeping inlet parallel to the tank edge. First to install the 6-inch suction hose. Keep the hose on the tank of the parallel to the tank at the edge of the bringing of the hose of the offside of the tank. Connect the 6-inch female cam lock with a double grooved adapter for the cam lock valve. Connect the 6-inch double groove suction to the hose over the 6-inch gate valve of the assembly. Do not place any valves inside the berm in the event of a tank rupture. Any valve inside the berm would not be accessible. Install discharge pump in side of the second tank. Install discharge pump side of the second tank. Position the hose line pump. Ensure the pump is located relatively near to the BFTA to minimize the suction hose requirements. Correct the 6-inch suction hose between the inlet suction side of the pump assembly to the tree assembly. Connect the 6-inch cam lock female to elbow to nozzle on the inlet side of the tank, keeping the elbow pointed to the parallel to the edge of the tank. Connect the 6-inch double groove male cam lock adapter to the elbow. Connect the 6-inch discharge hose nozzle or 6-inch discharge hose between the coupler adapter over the berm inlet and the inlet T assembly. Keeping the inlet T outlet hose of the parallel to the tank at the edge of the tank of the nozzle. Keep the hoses for the putting of the strain on the tank of the nozzles. Install on the range poles. Install the range poles on the top of the outside of the berm liner with all out. Place a plastic card with the twin poles of the poles to help judge the tank and the height of the in relation to the poles. Center the cord when stretched. The top should be 6 feet and 8 inches above the padded floor. 9. Set up fuel dispensing assembly. The following assembly instruction apply to one of the fuel dispensing assembly. There's one fuel dispensing assembly for each unit for a total of 3 for a tactical petroleum terminal. Inspect all items of the damage, cleanness, and quantities required to determine the approximate location and layout of the dispensing area per established plot plan. Liberally apply all petroleum to the gasket inside the surface and coupling clamp to prevent the pinching during the installation. Then pull the coupling gasket over the one of the groove end of each of the matching joint and ensure the gasket in the properly positioned over the full circumference of sealing the surface. Position the coupling clamp over the gasket while maintaining alignment of the matting parts, looking at the couple clamps securely. Line the mounted mating surface of the 6x6 by 4 inch tees, figure 2, 6x12, 6x50 foot hoses assembly 2, 6-inch ball valves 3, 6-inch pressure valves 4, 6-inch caps 5, and joint the items to using the coupling clamps. To assemble the 4-inch dispensing hose, connect the 4-inch gate valve hose 7 to the 2 T's 1 using couplings 8 and gaskets and 9 and uncoupling clamps 10. Connection 4-inch 25-foot cam lock hoses 11 to the gate valve 7. We'll connect the 4-inch cam lock butterfly 12 to the hose 11. Determine the dispensing device combination with the following connection to the limited butterfly of the valves. Connection 4-inch male and 3-inch female cam lock reducer gasket. D1 nozzle assembly and adapter 16. Dry brake coupling assembly 17. Dry brake tanker truck adapter 18. NATO tank truck adapter coupling set or NATO rail tanker coupling 20. To assemble 1.5-inch disassembling hoses, connect the 1.5-inch ball valves 21 to the 2 T's 1 using gaskets 8 and 9 couplings clamps 10 4-inch female, 2-inch male reducers 22, gaskets 23, and female 1.5-inch male reducers 24, and gaskets 25. Connect the 1.5-inch pressure control valves at 26 and to the valves at 21. Connect the 1.5-inch 25-foot hose assembly to 27 to pressure valve control 26. Connecting the remaining 1.5-inch ball valves at 21 to the end of the hose 27. To assemble the 4-inch separator, the water detection kit and lines. Connection to 4-inch 25-foot hose cam lock tees using coupling clamps at 10, gasket coupling adapters and gaskets. Connecting 4-inch gate valves of 7 and 11 hoses. Connect the water detection cap adapter 29 of the gate valve. Install service prepare the filter separators in accordance filter separators 30 in accordance with TM 543302112. Connect the filter separator 30 to the water detection kit adapters using the couplings, gaskets, and coupling clamps. Connect the 4-inch gate valves to the filter separators using the coupling clamps, gaskets, coupling and adapters and gaskets. 7. Connection of the 4-inch 25-foot hose 11 cam lock to the gate valves 8. And the connection hose connecting hose to the 11 to the T's using the couplings 8 and the 9 coupling clamps 10. H. Locate and install ground rod. I. Place 8 each drip pans. Place 8 each drip pans, 2 each oil absorbent materials, and 2 each storage drums, whether they will be available for the user when needed. Assemble the tanker truck receipt manifold. Place the 4 unloading points 12, 10, 9, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Start in the center unloading zone assembly with the suction manifold. Use the 2 section T's, 2 6-inch T's, 4 6-inch gate valves, 3 position manifold far enough off the axis of the road to allow the 4-inch suction hose to reach the tanker trucks. C. Position connect the hose to the line pump. Use no more than the 2 sections of the 6-inch hose, and this reduces the suction requirements on the pump. Start at center of the suction manifold, work both ways, and establish unloading using 6 suction hoses on each side. The 6-inch to the 6-inch, 4-inch to the 6-inch suction hose to the start of each of the 4 unloaded points. Cap outside ends of the outermost tees. Using the cam lock double groove adapter, connection 4-inch gate valve on the 6-inch by 6-inch 4-inch teeth, followed by the 4-inch suction hose 9. Connection to 4-inch butterfly valves. Cam lock reducer connection to 50-foot section of the 6-inch discharge hose. Install bypass around the hose line pump. Connect the hose line between the tanker truck and receipt in the manifold and switching manifold. Let me back out of this. Okay, here's the ball equivalent 50-gallon tank, AV tank, range flow kit. Here is the assembly, figure 2, more assembly, transfer monofuels. Let's see where I left off at. We'll start reading on page 1. All right, place the switching Place the switching manifold, figure 4, place container 6 inches, aluminum tees 2 inch 6 inch gauge, 3 6-inch samples, assemblies 7 6-inch valves 4, hose assemblies 5, meter skid assembly 6, pressure regulating valve assembly near the respective inspection site as indicated. Remove the tees, valves, hose lines, pressure regulating valve assembly sample assemblies, meter skid assemblies, adapters, coupling hoses, coupling gaskets for the containers. Check all the items, damages, cleanliness, and quantity is required. Note: liberally apply the petroleum to the gasket and the installation of the full. Then pull the coupling basket back over the one grooved end of each of the mating joint. Ensure the gasket is properly positioned over the full circumference of the ceiling of the surfaces. Position coupling clamp of the gasket while maintaining alignment of the mating parts. Locking the coupling clamp securely. Connecting the 6-inch tees together. The configuration shown of the two using the clamps to connecting gate valve 3 valve assembly. 2 tees using coupling clamps. Discharge connecting hose 5 ball between ball valve meters. strain assemblies also between the T meter strain on the return of the manifold using the coupling clamps. Connection of the fuel assembly the 7 into T2 using the coupling clamps 1. In some of the cases, the hoses may be between sampling assembly between switching manifold. H. Connection pressure regulating valve 8 in pipeline using coupling clamps 1. The switching method upstream of the fuel assembly is directed by the operating authority. 6-inch inland petroleum distribution system. Single groove in pipe is supplied to the associated pipeline. If the system does not involve an associated pipe, feed line of the hose pipe can be tied directly into the pressure regulator, and all downstream conduit can be hose lined. Equipment must be grounded and bonded at all times of the installation, preventing the explosion from fire. Equipment damage can result from if due to the stream pressure exceeds 125 psi. On the return manifold, connect the discharge 5 between the outlet side of the meter strain 6 and on the single side drillable groove adapter 9 using the coupling clamps 1. Place the forward to each drip pan 10 to each absorbent oil material 11 to each storage drum 12, which will be available for the use as needed. Place the fire suppression equipment as directed by the layout in accordance with the task 10192F 1309. Set up the contaminated fuel module figure 5. Locate and install 2 each 50,000 gallon collapsible fabric tanks. 1 figure 5. Be sure that the elbow hoses or valves supplied with the tanks are installed. Alright, warning. Grounding and pumps must be grounded at the time of installation, preventing the explosion of fire. Okay, install pump. As caution, install pump as far as away from the tanks as serves without bridging of the suction hose, deforming the tank top, but pumping the engine exhausting fumes and are hot and distance from the tanks to enhance the safety. Performing 350 gallon pump for 2 uses applicable, observing all warnings and cautions. Connect 2-inch, 6-inch by 4-inch reducers 3 to the tank of the elbows. Check the 2 disconnect gaskets are placed in the 2 and connecting to each of the camlock adapter 5. Liberally apply the petroleum to the gasket inside the surface of the coupling clamp, preventing the pinching during the installation. Then pull the coupling gasket over the one of the groove end of each of the mating joint. Ensure the gasket is properly positioned over the full circumference of the sealing surface. Position the coupling clamp over the gasket while maintaining alignment with the mating parts, locking clamping and lamp securely. Connecting 4-inch, 6-inch, 650-inch hose assembly using the coupling clamp 6. Connect the 2-inch gate of the valve 8 of the using clamping hose 6. Connect the gate valves 8 into T9 using coupling clamp 6. Connect the remaining 6-inch 50-foot hoses 7-foot to the T using a coupling clamp. Connect the 4-inch to total of 8 4-inch 12-inch cam lock hoses 10 from the tanks 1 to the suction side of 2. Connect the 2-inch connect 2 each 4-inch 25-foot cam lock hoses to discharge side of the pump. Check the quick disconnect gasket air places. Install the 4-inch 3-inch reducer and 3-inch ball valve. Place 2 each drip pan absorbent oil and storage drum. Where will they be available for use if needed? Okay, what you got? You got your pumps and your T's and your valves. Receipt manifold and return manifold. Pad, your 14. Connecting transfer hose line assembly. Figure 6. Notes connect the transfer hose line is used to connect the tank farm assembly, switching manifold, fuel dispensing assembly, tanker truck, and the receipt manifolds into the operational tactical petroleum terminal. There are 4 transfer hoses and line assemblies into the tactical petroleum terminal. 1 of the pipeline connection assembly. 1 in each of the 3 fuel units. Fuel of the pipeline enters into the switch manifold within the proper position of the valve. Fuel is routed through the transfer hose line in any of the fuel unit. The fuel is stored in the fuel units and transferred throughout the transfer hose line assembly. About 600 gallons per minute hose line pumped into the fuel dispensing assembly back into the pump pipeline. The 6-inch 500-foot hoses assemblies are supplied in shipping and storage in containers. A. Position container storage 6-inch tees gate valves assembly near the respective installation sites and remove the necessary quantity 6-inch aluminum tees, 6-inch gate valves, assemblies of coupling couples, clamps, coupling gaskets, and for the containers, check all the valves, check all the items damaged, cleanliness quantities are required. Liberally apply petroleum to the gasket inside the surface of the coupling clamp to prevent the pitching during the installation of the pull of the coupling gaskets over one of the groove end of each of the mating joint. Ensure the gasket is properly positioned over the circumference of the seal surface. Position the coupling clamp over the gasket while maintaining alignment of the mating parts. The looking clamp lamp secure. Tighten the coupling clamps clamps 1 to the gate valves 2, being careful not to damage gasket 3, connecting the gate valves 2 and to T's 4, connecting the transfer hose line to the quantity as required between T's 4 and receipt of the manifold assembly. This is a bigger view of this. You see the little tanker farm assemblies. You see your fuel dispensing system, your seat manifolds. Prepare technical petroleum terminal for operation. Prepare operational checks according to the standard operation procedure. Perform the commissioning of the tactical petroleum terminal system. The determining of the commissioning means to include the purging air and the initial line filling. Commission is not intended to include the complete filling of the storage tanks. 1. Purge system as directed by the supervisor. Caution: the vent gases during the purging operations may be flammable. Make sure the fuel vapors and the special precautions to eliminate ignition sources from the areas must be taken. The process of removing the air from the system will cause the relatively high ventilation rate of the tank vents of the vent is actually flammable due to the mix for the fuel vapors, droplets, and special precautions must be taken due to this condition. Caution: internal direct rock construction waste, so forth can ruin an equipment and cause operation failures. Eliminate such contaminants before commencing operation. 2. Purge and fill the fuel unit as directed. Each fuel unit is purged and filled is the same to procedure. Purge and fuel supply hoses, contaminated fuel module. Purge and fill supply lines. Very low fuel rates, approximately 50 gallons per minute maximum, must be maintained during the purge and the fill operation until the hose has been fully purged from the meter skids. Assembly upstream hose line and higher air flow from the meter skids. Assembly may overspeed the ruin of the meter. Caution: blocking pressure, trapping high pressure between the closed valves can damage equipment. 5. Purge all fuel discharge lines from the tank. Warning: fuel splashes, spills can cause eye injury, skin irritation. Wear face shield, and improve goggles. Grounding, bonding. The system dispensing valve must be grounded and bonded to the receipt by the vessel prior to the opening of the vessel. Dispensing of the fuel, static electricity could cause a fire explosion. Purging the fill of the discharge line of the tanks and the lines through the fuel dispensing system back to the tank of the farm module assembly in preparation for the purge and the fuel dispensing assembly. Bring to the collapsible open drum to the heap container to catch the fuel from the dispensing valves. Fuel splash and spill. Splashes and spills can cause eye injury, skin irritation. Wear face shield that approved goggles, hose whip. Hoses may tend to move rapidly when, if not weighed down. Pressure changes can cause the hose whip to injure in personnel. Discharge lines of fuel tank. Perform decommission procedures prior to the operation. Operate the tactical petroleum terminal transfer fuel. Warning: overfueling fabricated tanks. Do not overfill the fabricated collapsible tanks. A spill through a vent of the possible for a rupture of major spill could result. Check the commission procedures have been completed. Divert off over the specification fuel to the contaminated fuel module. The sample results indicated in the interface has arrived. Receive the fuel from the pump line as follows. Reset the meter. Open the valves in the hose line. Routed the appropriate tank. Open the valve to the appropriate meter skid assembly. Open the transfer to the complete close appropriate valves to take in the read of the meter recorded on DA form 4193. Draw samples as required to complete the DA form 1804. Receive the fuel from the tanker truck as follows. Gauge the petroleum tank valves according to task 10192 F14.4. Reset the meters. Open the valves in the hose line out to the appropriate tank. Connect the supply tank truck or the trucks to the couplings outboard of the valve. Open the appropriate valve to the hose line pump. The 600 gallon per minute. The start of the hose line pump. The appropriate valves of the tank. Warning, do not allow the truck to move away without disconnecting the hose, as a spill could result. When transferring is complete, they shut down the pump and they close all the valves, disconnect the tanker of the truck, draw the sample that was required to complete the DA Form 1804, discharge fuel from the tank of the tank farm, discharge fuel from the tank farm module assembly through the fuel dispensing assembly. Warning, dispensing assembly operation pressure. Make sure that the pressure control valves are functioning. A high pressure can result in a high hose whip that splashback. There spills, ground bounding. The system dispensing valve must be grounded bounded in the receptacle vessel pressure to open the vessel. Dispensing fuel to static electricity could cause a fire explosion. No smoking. First, no smoking on all personnel, including drivers from the outside of the tactical terminal. Tactical petroleum terminal. Vehicles disconnect. Make sure the vehicles are disconnected from the dispensing system before the moving. Stop vehicle engines. Stop all vehicle engines while loading the fuel. Establish which fuel tank has an able room to hold the incoming fuel. The rate of the discharge through the dispensing assembly is governed through the 6-inch pressure control valve. It sets at 30 psi is located in the recirculating line of the dispensing set. Intended that the control valve keeping the dispensing pressure at the maximum 30 psi. There must be a good communication between the dispensing operation supervisor and the pump operator. Shut down the feed pump when no fuel is dispensed. The fueling describes the use of the pump 3 to discharge fuel from tank 1 through dispensing assemblies recirculated to the tank 2. Opening valves 4 and through 21. Check there is a flow path open from the pressure regulating valve 22 to the tank. Connect the dispensing coupling or the couplings to the tanker trucks being loaded. Start the pump. Hold the very low discharge pressure on idle position. Open the appropriate valves 23 and through 30, leading the dispensing home coupling being used. Raise pump. 3 discharge pressure is required to maintain 30 psi. Control the speed valve at 22. Understand no conditions should pump the discharge pressure should be allowed to be exceedingly 75 psi. Surplus fuel, for example, there is no dispense will flow to the tank. When loading is complete, close the valve nearest coupling 2330. Shut down the pump and disconnect the coupling. 8. The above instructions pass through the fuel separators 31 and 34. Under the normal condition, 3 filter separators should be serviced and unloading rates limited up to 700 gallons. Transfer fuels of the tanker farm module assembly to associated pipeline, selecting the transfer fuel from the tactical petroleum terminal to associated pipeline. There must be no back and pressure pipeline system that exceeds 600 gallons per minute hose line pump discharge head capability. The routing procedures to transfer from any other tank would be the same except for the valve position between the tank and the tank and the pump. Open the valves 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Record the reading of this reset measure 7. Start the operator pump at 8 at low discharge pressure. Open valve 9 while increasingly discharge rate of the pump 8. Backflow. Caution: backflow. Make sure there is no flow from the pipeline system into the tactical terminal. Prevent overpressure. When transfer is complete, close 9. Properly shut the pump to 8 down 8. Record meter at 7. Trapping the high pressure between the closed valves can damage the equipment. G. Close all the valves beginning at the first upstream point of the continuing downstream. Depressing the drainage system after the tactical terminal is commissioned and placed into the operation. It will be necessary for the time to pressure the drain various parts of the system for maintenance and disassembly. Throughout the operating and maintenance instruction manual, the reader is warned of depressing pressurized system before breaking operating flanges, couplings, and other closures. This is avoid spills of fuel that can injure personnel, cause higher hazards, and follow the described procedures recommended for depressurizing and draining. Warning: pre-pressurized system. Do not break open any flanges or open any coupling until the system is depressurized at the location and then it can result. The system is generally depressurized by opening the valves in the flow leading to the fabric collapsible tank. The valve upstream of the section is depressurized and are left enclosed. Individual pieces of the equipment such as strainers, meters, skids, assembly filters, separators, hose lines, pump lines, hose line pumps, and have individual vents and drains. After the system has been depressurized, the piece of the equipment locked into the vents and drains on the equipment should be opened before the particular item is worked on. This will assure the depressurizing of the particular item. The fuel dispensing assembly of the optional anchor truck unloading system can be depressurized by opening the valves in the flow path of the tanker truck from the associated pump has been shut down and blocked in. D. Close valves and applicable flow line in the furthest upstream closest source to the fuel under pressure. B. Closed first and close. B. Closed first, subsequently followed by the closing of the valves downstream. This will avoid the blocking the fuel under the pressure. This enhances the safety of the system. A line closed off this manner will be depressurized. When a system of the portion of the system must be drained of the maintenance, it must be depressurized first. Obtaining appropriate containers to hold the drainage fuel drain fuel for the disposal. The closure at the lowest point of the shoulder should be the open first, and then the hose of the drain in the containers. The closure at the highest point should be open in all complete drainage. 7. Emergency procedures. Fire. Immediately shut off all flow through the fuel area. If the pump is involved, shut down if possible. Begin extinguishing fire. Evacuate personnel not involved in fire. Remove any fuel accumulations that cause fire to may reignite. Hose the line brake on the serious leak. Shut down any of the transfer taking places in the hose line. Extinguish any of the fire and standing by. Block in the hose line in section that having leak. Pressurize it if under pressure. Drain the hose line in the segment. Move the hose line away from the spill area. Isolate the spill and clean it up. Fabric tank rupture or serious leak. Shut down any of the pumping into the tank. Extinguish any of the fire and standby. Starting pump out of the tanker in another safe distance from the ruptured tank. Empty the ruptured tank completely. Check integrity of the berm. Correct it in the extent of the safe to do. And if the beam has broken out of the leaking, securely create earthen dams around the dams of the drainage to isolate the pump out of any accumulated fuel inside the berm or the dam. Break or serious leak on the pump. Shut down, close the block valves on each side of the break. If there is a fire extinguisher, extinguish it and stand by and clean up the spill. Serious spills due to operation error. Immediately shut down the pump supplying spill, or shut off the valves nearest to the spill that can be closed safely. Extinguish any fires to stand by. Clean up the spill. Overflowing of the tank. Shut down the pumping into the tank. If a fire results, put it out and stand by. Begin pumping out the overflowing of the tank, bringing the level down to an acceptable point. Pump out any accumulated fuel inside the berm. G. Critical situation. Coupling flange leaks. Determine the clause if they have corrected fueling accumulations. Clean up immediately. Hot running pump. Take out the service and notify the unit maintenance. Valve gland leaks. Notify unit maintenance. Valve equipment cracks. Notify unit maintenance. Overfilled tank. Pump off surplus immediately. 17. Preparation of storage. Pressurized system. Do not break open any of the flanges, any of the couplings until the system is depressurized. If the location of injury or fuel spill can result. Depressurizing and draining the system. The entire tactical petroleum terminal hose line should be pumped and drained of the fabricated closable tanks to extendable possibility. The fuel in tanks can be pumped into the tanker trucks for the disposal and called for operating authority. Disassembling and cleaning. The following guidelines are the disassembling and cleaning of the system at each type of equipment. Warning: to avoid explosion or fire, use an explosion-proof electrical equipment. Enforce no smoking signs, rules, or no smoking rules in around all areas in which the tanks or other equipment are being cleaned. Caution: clean and dry. All equipment must be clean and dry prior to the preservation of the packing. Water will result depending on the materials or the construction and corrosion with the mildew. General deterioration. Fuel left in the equipment may be fire hazard during the transportation, storage, and dirt and debris, and the cause of corrosion that can be damage the equipment. Okay, performance steps. Dry, drain, disassemble, fabricate collapsible tanks. Fuel spills can result in saturated soil, cause a potential fire. After a tank is pumped as dry as possible, remove the hose line fittings from the tank except from the bottom of the drain. Roll the tank top up to the bottom of the drain. If equipment of the manpower are available to do so, end of the tank can be lifted to cause flow towards the drain instead of rolling it up. Dropping off an accumulated fuel from the drain valve into a sump or other suitable container which can be pumped dry. 3. Lay out the tank outflow out flat again. Flash the tank. Flash the tank out of the water. Detergent flowed in with a clean water rinse. Pump the contaminated water into the disposal sump tanker as best as suits the local situation. Repeat the process unit until fresh water is fuel free, and drain as much water as possible from the tank. Remove the tank from the pad of the urn and place in a clean area. Clean the tank thoroughly on the outside. I will. Implantate the tank in a low-pressure blower and make sure the pressure is at 0.1 psi. Continue the ventilating unit until dry. It may be necessary to swab out the tank and completely remove the water and some of the fuel for expeditious ways. Roll up and transport tank to an inspection preservation packing area. Warning, death from serious injury results from exposure to toxic flammable vapors. Insufficient oxygen inside the petroleum tanks. Do not enter the tank unless atmosphere has been tested by a technically qualified safety and health personnel to determine acceptable entry conditions. In any of the fuel, vapor, sludge repairs in the tank and the oxygen deficiency exists, the tank must be treated at a permit-required confined space. No one may enter a permit required of the confined space without any approval from the qualified safety health personnel, and without any required protective clothing and equipment. Rescue, emergency service, safety equipment, training and standby personnel, and written permit. If any explosive atmosphere exists within the tank presents an immediate hazard to safety. It may not be entered under any circumstances. Death, serious injury may result in these precautions are not followed. D. Disassemble, drain, and dry line hoses. All hoses must be completely dry inside, clean on the outside before capping them, before repacking them. It is recommended that all hoses be tagged and identification set and disassembled site prior to at the disassemble site. Try to transporting them to inspection of the packing of the area. Disassemble the hose lines. Suction hose lines. The suction hose lines should be drained in a container with the sump. They should be flushed within water and blown and swab dried. The section should be capped and cleaned externally and transported into the inspection for packing area. 3. Discharge hose lines. All 6-inch hose lines are drained and flushed with water dried. And note, avoid double handling. It is recommended that 6-inch transfer hose lines thoroughly inspected with clean stored. This will avoid having to remove the hose line again at the inspection of the preservation area. Warning, because potential fire and explosions following the safety regulations must be followed, there should be no smoking allowed at the 100 feet of the displacement, execution, or evacuation operation. Smokes respected. Smoking should be restricted in the designated as safe smoking areas. Fuel spills must be cleaned up properly. Using an appropriate absorbent, dispose of the material as designated location. Fuel saturated soil is a fire hazard. Access to spill areas should be restricted. Inappropriate action is taken to clean it up. E. Fuel displacement using displacement of an evacuation kit. Place a hose clamp per hose clamp or supplied as part of the hose line installation and repair assembly near the hose double groove adapter from the hose line system starts. This will be near coupling with attaching a hose line to the pump or switch manifold, tanker, truck's receipt manifold. Disconnect the hose line, assemble the PET facility from which it originates. This is done by removing the coupling clamp. A slide gasket away from the center position between the groove fittings. Separate hose lines from the facility. Remove the gasket. Place the displacement ball inside the line end of the hose line adapter. Connect the inlet and the pneumatic coupler to the hose line where the displacement ball was installed. Assembly the ball receiver assembly consisting of the two 8-inch 8 by 16-inch reducers, one 8-inch coupling clamp, one 8-inch gasket. The double line. This is done by aligning 8-inch ends of the receiver, installing 8-inch gaskets, fitting and snapping, coupling halves of over-joined ends of the reducer. Determine the hose line connector location at which the ball receiver is installed. Use the hose clamps as required to disconnect the hose line and install the ball receiver into the hose line and determine the filled location. Align 6-inch reducer without internal rod. Stop toward the displacement of the ball into it. Install the coupling clamp over the joint grooved ends. Align the 6-inch end of the reducer into the internal rod stops with the next hose line segment. Install a coupling clamp over the joint double grooved ends, thereby connecting the receiver assembly to the next hose line segment. Release the hose clamp installed in step 8 and loosen the screw handle. 11. Attach the air compressor to the ball inlet hose and refer to the hose clamp installed near the ball inlet assembly. Start the air compressor and compress air ball inlet valve. Inlet assembly in step 5. Air pressure to 20 to 25 psi per square inch, usually required to more displacement ball to a satisfactory rate as long as the hose line. The air compressor should be run until the ball is observed entering the ball into the inlet assembly. A sound will be heard when the ball reaches the receiver. If the ball gets stuck, straighten kink in the line. Be observant to ensure that the hose does not move over compressed pressure. After the ball has entered the ball receiver assembly, stop the air compressor, clamp down on the hose, and clamp on the downstream side of the ball receiver assembly. Uncouple and remove the ball receiver from the location of the hose clamp for evacuated hose segment. F. Air, fuel, and fuel vapor. Ensure area is clean of smokers. And all open flame sparking devices fail. Fuel vapors and air are very explosives. Using attached upstream air compressor injected compressed air and evacuated the hose segments for at least 10 minutes, thereby blowing and many remaining fuel vapors. Air pressure to 20 to 25 psi per square inch may be required. After the fuel vapors have been removed, install the air cap on the end of the hose, and if you do not have a cap, you can seal the hose by bending it back into itself and several times and sending it back several times and tying the hose securely. Going to the beginning of the hose line section, disconnect the air compressor hose line from the ball inlet. Attach the suction hose on the air ejector of the ball inlet. Position the compressor hose on the inlet side of the ejector. Start the air compressor injected compressed air into the ejector. This creates a vacuum and draws any of the remaining fuel vapor air from the hose line, expels this from the exhaust end of the hose ejector assembly. Operate the ejector about 10 minutes after 1,000 feet of the hose. When hose flattens to the ribbon-like form, stop the air compressor, fold back the end of the hose, and tie securely. Remove the ball inlet assembly and air ejector. Place end cap collapse hose line in to prevent the hose line expanding it before it is packed into the flacking box. When the hose line length is being evacuated, collapsed, and capped, it is ready for packing. Warning: be very cautious when evacuating fuel vapors. Fuel vapor and air are explosive mixtures. 4 inches hose line are to be drained, flushed with water, dried, and capped. Hose lines smaller than 4 inches must be drained, flushed, dried without benefit of displacement of an evacuation kit. Aluminum fittings, tees, elbows, nipples, and adapters, and so on, are swabbed and cleaned and dried, and fittings are to be tagged at time of the removal of aid of identification during repacking of the box fittings. Coupling and clamps and gaskets. Coupling and gaskets are swabbed, clean, and dry, and box coupling clamps. 2. The gaskets are wiped clean and bagged and boxed. Gaskets are obviously not used under any circumstances, should be disposed of immediately. Valves and valve assemblies. Drain, clean, and dry valve and valve assemblies. Pressure regulating valve assemblies. Pressure control valve assemblies. These items are to be fueled, drained, swabbed, cleaned, dried inside and outside. The control pilot manifold must be thoroughly drained, blowing through the vents while aid doing this. Meter skid assembly. Meter strainer assembly. These items must be drained, swabbed, dry. Externally, pumping engines, pumps are removed from the system, thoroughly drained. Do not drain engine crankcase fuel tank at this time. This equipment may be washed down, externally dried, as long as no matter water is allowed inside the equipment. Floodlight sets. Floodlight sets are to be disassembled, cleaned, and washed down and thoroughly dried. Fire suppression equipment. Fire suppression equipment should be cleaned and removed from the Tactical Petroleum Terminal site only after a fuel carrying equipment has been drained and removed from the site and site vacated. Wash down and thoroughly dry all the fire equipment. Firefighting clothes should be brushed and wiped off, and if can be washed off, must be completely dried. Miscellaneous equipment. Miscellaneous equipment is to be swabbed, cleaned, and dried, tagged. Externally, water washes some of the equipment is permissible. There is no chance of getting water inside the equipment. A fabric collapsible tank. If cleaning dry has been conducted properly, there should be no further working required of the fabric tank themselves. If they are not dry, cleaning them inside and outside. Additional work may be required. 2. The valves, fittings, and hose lines that are part of the tank of the supply are to be treated. Hose line assemblies. All hose line assemblies must be cleaned dry inside and out. Faults are to be listed. Minor faults should be repaired before packing. Hose lines assemblies are area to be sealed and capped. End fittings are to be coated with preservative compound. Check the transfer hose lines contained with the storage containers as dry as when in doubt. The hose line should be removed thoroughly dried. Aluminum fittings are clean and dry. Couplings and clamps or gaskets. Couplings and clamps or gaskets are inspected for the damage and cleanliness. If the damage disposes of properly, coupling and the clamps are to be cleaned for the rust and painted. Damaged gaskets should be disposed of properly. Valve assemblies. The valves are to be thoroughly cleaned, dried inside and out. Valve packings, glands are to be loosened prior to the preservation. Particular attention must be paid to the coating, glands, and bushings. External machine surfaces such as valve stems are to be coated with a preservative. Valve bodies that require paint are to be painted. Remove any of the corrosion. Seal the cap of the valve assembly pipe nozzle. Make the end of the seals as airtight as possible. Pressure regulating valve assemblies. Pressure control valve assemblies. Disassemble the pressure regulating valve only enough to inspect. Make sure that the unit has no standing water condensation internally before the preservation. Seal cap off nozzles to prevent entrance of water. Minimize air circulation. Close off vents and tightly. Paint as needed. Meter skids assembly. Meter strainer assembly. Check the unit of the nozzle before. Be sure there is no water present. If the water is present, dry and out, and there is no corrosion, proceed with preservation. If the corrosion is apparent, pass the unit through the maintenance channels for overhaul and disposition. 2. Seal the cap off at the end of the nozzles. Airtightness is important. 3. Paint as needed. Y. Pump and engines. Proceed the preservation in accordance with TM 543203005 10 600 gallon per minute hose line pump and TM 543202614 or TM 10 4320324 14 for a 350 gallon per million gallon per minute transfer. Flood set. Proceed with the preservation in accordance with the TM 96320 Fire suppression equipment. Proceed preservation in accordance with the TM 10 miscellaneous equipment. Thoroughly make any of the minor repairs necessary. Pass damaged equipment through the appropriate maintenance authority for disposition. Lubricate paint in accordance with the TM 430139 as applicable. Okay. Evaluation preparation. See conditions and standards. Apply risk management procedures. Read and understand the unit standard authorization procedure. Requirements of requisition, storing, handling, and disposing of hazardous materials. Where appropriate personnel protective equipment is required before, during, and after operations. Preventive maintenance check services and systems components according to appropriate technical manuals and noted with the DA Form 2404, DA Form 598AE. Any faults while performing the maintenance checks, enter the communication nets and conduct communication checks in accordance with the standard authorization procedure. Communication electronic operations instructions. Position major end items such as pumps, twin agent units, and floodlights as directly by the supervisor. Place floodlight. Place 5,000 fabric collapsible tank. Place fuel dispensing assembly. Assemble tank or truck or seat manifold. Place switching manifold. Place fire suppression equipment. Place contained fuel module. Place transfer hose line. Place terminal petroleum tactical petroleum terminal for operation. Operate the tactical petroleum terminal. Place for storage. Prepared for storage. Score the soldier go if the performance measures are passed. Score the no go if the performance measure has failed. Score the no go if the soldier was done wrong and how to do it correctly. The DA forms are kind of no different. You'll see them later. And that should bring us to section subject area 4.